So if we open our minds to the fact that it could be us next, then we can also adopt some coping strategies that will stave off any potential breakdown or kind of general lack of well-being. Everyone has a different life balance, and many work long hours and don't mind that too much, although many no doubt do. The difference under COVID is that we feel a different pressure due to our freedoms being restricted, of course, mixed in perhaps with some fear of us or our loved ones contracting the virus. And whilst working from home in another situation might not cause the issue of not being able to separate work from home, in lockdown we're impacted more. It's more extreme. The external pressures weigh on us, and therefore we need to not only take advice as to best practice with normal working from home, but also supplement this best practice with new and more radical personal strategies. If I were to list out the coping strategies I've seen work for people, they fall roughly into the following categories: building your underlying physical resilience, building underlying mental resilience, and these two are very much interrelated, creating boundaries, keeping good work habits, and developing other habits. But they do cross over a bit, so that's just a way to look at it. Now, I'd like to leave plenty of time for discussion as later on in this session, we'll move into groups to talk about what you've seen work so we can gather some more real life examples. But I'll take 5 or 6 minutes now to touch on all the things that I've seen or heard from people in different situations, different geographies over the last year. So first up, it's really straightforward, but do we do it? Ensure you have enough sleep, nutritious food, and lots of water. Some of this will require planning, so you need to think how you're going to do that. And it might be worth just pausing and thinking, am I doing those things? Very straightforward, we might think, but I know myself, I'm not always sticking to what I should do. Next, get enough exercise. And if you can get out into nature, even better. It's really interesting because the experts say we humans, it's not that long ago that we were very close to nature. And now we're quite removed from it often. But if we see or experience more of nature, it makes us feel happier, makes us feel more positive, because we're actually missing that sometimes in our lives at the moment. Try out meditation for a short period each day. And if, like me, you've never really got the hang of what you thought was meditation, just simply changing your focus and looking at something, looking out the window at a tree, at a leaf, and just kind of absorbing it and really seeing it, that is sufficient. That can really be helpful. And of course, you can use apps. There's lots of them out there to help you if you want to go deeper into that kind of thing. Ensure your eyes are rested regularly. There's been research on this, and people are not looking after their eyes well enough, considering we're working in a virtual world. And the experts say actually every 20 minutes you should actually stare away from your screen into the middle distance for 20 seconds. Now, I'm not sure how many of us would be doing that, but again, if we can get ourselves into that habit, that will protect our eye health. Getting up and moving about, and not focusing on one piece of work longer than 90 minutes. Our productivity falls down after 90 minutes, so we must think about that. And taking a break, a 5-minute break for every 30 minutes that we're at our computer screen in our office, whatever that happens to be. Focusing on being in the present is really important. It's an important thing anyway for us, but particularly in these times, not looking too much at the past and not worrying too much about the future for kind of any significant length of time. That can de-stress us to be in the present, and it has lots of other benefits, like actually noticing what's going on and really listening to people and learning. And ensure you're not listening to the news too often. Maybe restrict yourself to once a day and see how that feels. Make sure you keep in contact with at least 3 friends or family groups at all times. People start to retreat into themselves when they start to suffer from mental illness. And if you start to retreat, it could be a sign that your resilience is lowering and you're starting to suffer ill health. But you can also watch out for other people because they may also be suffering. Try to create a transition from home to office, even if you're not really commuting. If you are working from home, but go for a walk before and after work. Dress for work and then change at the end of the day. And for some of us, put on makeup for the day and take it off when you're going back into your home life. Just signaling to yourself that you're in a different mode. Some people find journaling helpful to get them more positive. So writing down the things you've learned or that you've enjoyed each day and reading them through on a regular basis. And what this does is it reinforces them and your mind starts to think that things are looking up. Compared with if you're constantly telling it that these are difficult times. Because our mind is, and I'll come back to this in a minute when I talk about mantras, but your mind will adapt to what you tell it. So if you're constantly looking at news that's giving you bad news, and we know the journalists revel in some of that, then your mind will start to really feel a bit depressed and down. Whereas if you're thinking of the positives and reinforcing them, then you will feel better. It's a very simple thing to do, and it works. Switch activities if you feel a low coming on, and go and do something. I might do a puzzle or go and cook a meal. Find something that you take pleasure in, that's your treat. And probably not best to go for the alcohol, chocolate, and film every time, but a little in moderation. And watch films that you've seen before if you're feeling a bit anxious, because you know what's going to happen. So they say that it reduces anxiety to watch something that you already know. And you don't really necessarily want to be on the edge of your seat during these times. Remember, alcohol is a depressant, but then things in moderation, a little bit of what you like does you good too. You can create a home spa. Some people do that. Catch up on things you've never had time to do around the house, decorating or organizing, and simply try to be intentional about your day and your choices. And that ties in with certainty, which I'll come back to in a moment or two. Think about the self-care elements as being vital to both your professional and home success, and not that they're something a nice to have. They're really, really important. Now, research shows that learning builds resilience. So you might want to take a course, learn something new, get another qualification. But if you don't feel ready for that, then don't feel guilty. You've got to be kind to yourself in these times. And every time you catch yourself trying to criticize yourself for something you didn't do right, or you're not really feeling up to taking on a Spanish course at the moment, just think kind thoughts. We're too harsh on ourselves, and that's not helpful. Mantras also work. Again, research. If you tell yourself something 120 times a day, you'll start to believe it over time. And that's how the mind works. So you can decide, do I tell myself that life is good and I'll get through all this fine? Or do I say it's terrible and I'm so upset that I missed that holiday and my dad's birthday and it's only going to get worse? And you create a downward spiral yourself. Sally Helgesen, world famous author, great woman, talks about just saying, oh, well. And she says that when things are going a bit wrong, and it's just like saying, oh, well, okay, it's all right. And I like to think of that quote from Scarlett O'Hara at the end of a famous film from the 1930s, Gone with the Wind. And she says, after all, tomorrow is another day. And I often like to think, if you look back on a time that was really difficult, you realize it resolves itself. Things don't stay forever. Bad things don't stay forever. And you can then encourage yourself. So a lot of it is talking to yourself and thinking about what you can control and what you can't control. So bring certainty in your life rather than planning something that may not go ahead or is unlikely to go ahead, but you're just hoping. Go for something that you have certainty around. Viktor Frankl, the psychotherapist who survived the Nazi war camps, talks about hope as being critical to survival in these conditions and a sense of purpose. So the more we remind ourselves of our purpose, our ambitions, and what we want to achieve in life, and visualize it, because visualization is really effective too, the more upbeat we will be. And yeah, our agendas are just so full at the moment. It's really difficult. I think many of us thought working from home, you'd have time to think, more time to do things, and it's just not true. We're all really, really busy. So one of the things I've learned to do is turn off alerts. So all those little things that come in messaging you that you've got a WhatsApp, that there's something coming on Teams or your email or messages, whatever it happens to be, they interrupt your thought process. And they say that you lose 28% of your productivity in a day through distractions. So if you can plan your agenda around focused time on what you want to do and take control of it, and if you're not distracted by these messages, if you say, I'm going to look at my emails these times in the day, but not respond just because somebody's written to me, when you take control that way, your productivity goes up hugely and you create more space in your day. And that then relieves some of the pressure. And that's a great coping strategy. As I say, I've been trying it out and it is very effective. And a final input for now, think about how you use your time versus how you use your energy. And then think about tasks versus time. And what I mean by this is identify what gives you energy and what saps it, what takes it out of you. And seek out the first and avoid the second. So trying to keep up your energy levels and say no to the things that take away your energy. It's very difficult for us to say no, but it's also very liberating. And assign your strategic tasks, the really important things, to the highest energy times where you know you've got energy. You know, if you're a morning person, a night person, you know how you feel at the end of the week, the beginning of the week. Because you don't want to be in that position that you've planned to do this great piece of work, strategic thing you're going to write, do whatever on a Friday afternoon, and you get there and you're so exhausted you can't do it. So think about that, and the operational stuff can happen at any time. Break up your day into time units with gaps and assign time blocks to certain things. That's a very effective strategy. And you might be a little less efficient as you're breaking off and resuming a task, but things don't bleed into each other then. And here's the thing. People always underestimate the time it will take them to do something. So you estimate the time, you plan in, and you don't finish it, and you feel bad. And that's when you're not kind to yourself again. Whereas if you think of it differently and say, I'm going to do that for 90 minutes then, and try and think maybe some reserve time another time to finish it off. When you've completed your 90 minutes of doing that task, you've achieved it. You can feel good. You're not going to be kind of unkind to yourself because you've actually done what you set out to do. So just thinking about those things, the psychology, it is quite important. Yeah, so these are some of my initial observations as to how you can help manage yourself in these unusual times. And do remember, a problem shared is a problem halved. But I think we're coming to the end of our time. Thank you very much for joining us for this lunchtime session. I hope you enjoyed it. As in the early group, as we were saying, a couple of people don't necessarily take this as seriously as they should, and we have had some real, a particular case in mind where one of our treasurers was obviously very, very affected in terms of mental illness, and we just need to look after ourselves. So I hope that sharing gave you some new inspiration. It certainly gave me a few things to think about, and I certainly have to be more disciplined. It's so tempting to just come and sit at the desk, isn't it? Because we love it so much. But thank you all again, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of the afternoon. Take care.